most entitled thing a family member has demanded from you. After 7 months of failed attempts, my husband Kyle and I announced that we were finally pregnant. Everyone erupted with cheers, except for my sister Jacqueline, who smashed her wine glass against the marble counter. "How dare you!" she shrieked. "You know how long I've been trying for a baby. I deserve to be the first." Mom tried to tell her 19-year-olds aren't ready for a baby, but Jacqueline refused to back down. She grabbed her purse, then dramatically stormed out yelling that I better abort my baby within 1 week, or else she's getting the police involved. The next morning, she showed up at our door with printed pages from abortion clinics, shoving them into Kyle's chest while he was still in his boxers. "I made appointments for her at 3 different places," she announced to our entire cul-de-sac. "She just needs to pick one." When Kyle tore up the papers, she called the whole family demanding an emergency intervention. That Sunday, 23 relatives crammed into Mom's living room, while Jacqueline stood at the fireplace like she was delivering a TED Talk on why I was destroying her life by having a baby first. She actually had a PowerPoint. Our Uncle Jeffrey, who's a lawyer, finally told her there's no legal precedent for forcing someone to abort because you want to be pregnant first. She pointed at me with tears streaming down her face and said if I didn't terminate by Monday, she'd never speak to any of us again. But we called her bluff, and all 23 of us told her, "See you, Felicia." She actually left sobbing, and we didn't hear from her for a long time. And then, 7 months into my pregnancy, we were having our baby shower when the door flew open. It was Jacqueline. She walked in with her hand on a massive belly, wearing a shirt that said, "First grandchild loading." Everyone went silent. Mom dropped her cake knife. "Surprise! I'm almost due," she announced, spinning around so everyone could see. "I got pregnant right after that horrible meeting where you all betrayed me. I'm 10 weeks away from giving birth." Nobody was impressed, and when I decided to screw with her and mentioned my due date that was 8 weeks away, her face turned deep red with anger. She grabbed my arm and whispered the dates didn't matter because she'd make sure hers came first, then left before anyone could respond. My mom called me that Tuesday bawling her eyes out. She'd found out from Jacqueline's roommate that Jacqueline had been taking black market labor induction substances she'd bought from some website in Romania, risking her baby's life to deliver before me. Now, Jacqueline was in the ICU, but not because of the substances. Turns out, Jacqueline had found some girl on Craigslist whose mother used to be a midwife in the Philippines, and paid this girl to perform a C-section in her living room. The girl kept refusing, saying Jacqueline was only 31 weeks. But my sister threatened to do it herself with kitchen knives if she didn't help. They used box cutters sterilized with vodka. Jacqueline lost so much blood that her neighbor saw it seeping under the apartment door. The baby somehow came out alive, but he was purple and barely breathing. They both nearly died in the ambulance. The baby went straight to the NICU on a ventilator, and Jacqueline needed a full hysterectomy. She'd never have another child. When she came to, the first thing she did was call me from her hospital bed. "You did this," she gasped through the oxygen mask. "My baby is dying because you couldn't wait until me to have a child." The craziest part about all this is now that she was fighting for life, suddenly the family was split down the middle. One half thought she'd lost her mind, but the other actually thought I should have delayed announcing my pregnancy to spare her feelings. One aunt even said I should have just aborted. But everyone agreed on one thing. We all needed to be there for the sick baby. My own pregnancy became pushed to the side. I didn't mind much, though. My baby was mine and my husband's, not my mom's. It just sucked how anytime I mentioned anything exciting, the conversation got redirected. 3 days before my due date, I was admitted for monitoring. Jacqueline's baby was still critical. The doctor said the next 48 hours would determine if he'd survive. The scariest part was that I could see her through my doorway, standing in the hall between the NICU and maternity ward. And she wasn't looking at the rooms or the nurses passing by. She was staring directly at my belly with an expression I'd never seen before. Tomorrow morning, they're inducing me. Jacqueline knows the exact time. She's been asking the nurses questions about the delivery room locations and whether they ever leave babies unattended. The NICU is 1 floor below maternity. If her baby doesn't make it through the night, I don't know what she'll do when mine is born healthy in the morning. The clock showed 3 a.m. when I woke up to Kyle's voice in the dark, already talking to someone on his phone about Jacqueline asking the nurses where babies get taken after delivery. He was pacing by the window, explaining how she'd been watching the hallways and timing how long nurses stayed in each room. The charge nurse on the other end promised to add a special security code to my chart right away and alert the whole night shift. Kyle wasn't satisfied, though, his voice getting louder as he demanded specific names of who would protect us and exactly what they'd do if Jacqueline tried to get near our baby. His hands were shaking as he wrote down names on the hospital notepad, asking about door locks and panic buttons, and whether security could physically stop someone from entering our room. The nurse kept trying to calm him down, but Kyle wanted a meeting with hospital security before my induction started at 8 a.m. Within an hour, Francis Bergman showed up at our door wearing a security supervisor badge and carrying a thick folder of protocols. He walked us through every single safety measure they had, showing us pictures of the electronic badges that tracked everyone's location, and explaining how the infant security tags would trigger an automatic lockdown if anyone tried to remove them or take a baby past certain doors. Francis took out his phone and had me send him the clearest photo I had of Jacqueline, so he could distribute it to every security guard on every shift with instructions to watch for her. He showed us the dedicated officer assigned to the maternity ward and gave us his direct number, promising someone would check on us every hour once labor started. At 5 a.m., someone knocked, and Olympia Hicks from Social Services came in with a clipboard full of forms, explaining she needed to document all the threats Jacqueline had made for potential CPS involvement. She sat in the uncomfortable visitor chair asking detailed questions about every interaction, every threat, every time Jacqueline had mentioned our baby, while I felt my face burning with embarrassment at having to tell a complete stranger about my family's mess. Olympia explained the process for getting an emergency restraining order and said she could start the paperwork right now if we wanted, that a judge could issue it before the baby was even born. My phone started buzzing non-stop as Mom apparently told everyone in the family group chat about the security measures we'd requested. Half my cousins thought I was being dramatic and overreacting to a new mother's stress, while the other half started sharing stories I'd never heard before about times Jacqueline had scared them or done something unstable when she didn't get her way. My aunt sent 3 paragraphs about how Jacqueline had keyed her car after not being invited to a party in high school, and my cousin mentioned finding Jacqueline going through her purse at Christmas looking for birth control pills to throw away. Uncle Jeffrey sent a private text saying he knew a detective named Cyrus Powell who specialized in these cases and could fast-track a police report if we needed one. I hesitated for a second, worried about making everything worse and turning this into an even bigger family war. But Kyle grabbed my phone out of my hand and typed back, YESPLEASE in all caps before I could stop him. A nurse rushed into our room looking worried and told us Jacqueline's baby had taken a bad turn overnight with his oxygen levels dropping so low they had to increase the ventilator support and add more medications. She said the NICU team was doing everything they could, but the next few hours were critical, and despite everything Jacqueline had done, I felt my chest tighten thinking about that tiny baby struggling to breathe because his mother couldn't wait 2 more months. The morning shift nurse came in at 7 a.m. and went over the whole delivery room setup with us, pointing out on a map where each nurse would be stationed and emphasizing that babies were never, ever left alone, even for a second. She showed us the matching ID bands we'd all wear with special numbers that had to match exactly, or alarms would go off. And she seemed genuinely concerned as she promised to personally stay in the room with us through the entire delivery, no matter how long it took. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote down exactly 4 names of people allowed to visit us: Kyle, Mom, Uncle Jeffrey, and Kyle's mother, then handed it to Francis along with very specific instructions that nobody else should even be told what room we were in or whether the baby had been born yet. Francis took the list seriously, making me initial next to each name and asking for physical descriptions of each person so his team could verify identities before letting anyone through. Kyle pulled me into the bathroom and closed the door, his whole body shaking as he admitted he was terrified he'd freeze up if Jacqueline actually showed up during delivery, that he wouldn't be able to protect us when it really mattered. He kept saying he should be stronger, should be ready to fight, but all he could think about was how he'd failed to see this coming and stop it before it got this bad. We held each other in that tiny hospital bathroom, promising we'd protect each other and our baby, no matter what happened, and I could feel his heart racing against my chest as we both tried not to cry. The bathroom door opened, and Francis was standing there with his clipboard, telling us that Jacqueline had just tried getting past the main security desk using a visitor pass from yesterday. She told the guards she needed to check on her baby, but they recognized her from the photo I'd given them earlier and walked her straight back to the NICU waiting area with a warning about restricted access. Francis said she kept arguing with them the whole way, insisting she had a right to see me since we were sisters, but they held firm and told her one more attempt would mean removal from the hospital completely. Kyle squeezed my hand